Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, viewer. We Group 5 from LE66, ASEAN Community, Security, Economic, and Social Culture Aspect Course will present our analysis. Our group consists of Rizky Hadi, Fadia Kaila, Gusti Made, Putri Utami, Syakira Gaisani, and Tiara Syahila. As for the topic was the Asian community crisis in 97 until 98. ASEAN and IMF response. The timeline of this topic is the Asian financial crisis that occurred for 1 year since July 2nd, 1997, in which Thailand became the trigger for massive inflation in the ASEAN region because a decline in economic growth in countries in the ASEAN region, particularly Southeast Asia. There are several factors that trigger financial and economic crisis. So what happened during the crisis? The Asia financial crisis was caused by the Thailand and spread rapidly to other countries, destroying the economy. Thailand announced the inability of the country to pay its foreign debt. Malaysia, Indonesia, and South Korea were also affected by the action, which were marked by large foreign currency borrowings, speculative real estate, and currency correction against the US dollar, because the overvaluation of their currency, which made this crisis affect their currency, stock market, and as of several country in Asia. The key question of the problem that we raise is first, what caused the Asian financial crisis? Second, how ASEAN and IMF respond? Third, how successful are ASEAN and IMF in tackling the issues? Four, what is the future of ASEAN? In addition, there are previous studies that address this issue. We use it to analyze this issue, namely the book title International Relation in Southeast Asia, The Struggle for Autonomy, written by Donald Weatherby, then journal article entitled One Decade Since the Asia Financial Crisis. What did ASEAN economy learn from their written by Nguyen Hu Hua, and journal article entitled The Asian Financial Crisis and the Role of the IMF, a survey written by Colum Kenny and Alan Houston. All three discuss the issue of the Asian financial crisis and the response.
The first literature Donald Weatherby books entitled International Relation in Southeast Asia, The Struggle for Autonomy, there are arguments that can be drawn. And the IMF indeed can be confirmed to put in help funds. Weatherby book cover more about how countries provide assistance. Not only countries, but multinational corporations such as IMF, which plays an important role in dealing with the economic crisis that occurs. The IMF itself provides various programs or becomes a distributor of funds for various countries in Southeast Asia region that is experiencing an economic crisis. It appears that the author considered that the IMF has done a succeeded in helping ASEAN member, but the authors also feels that ASEAN itself does not have preparation or way to overcome crisis such as the economic crisis.
From the second literature, namely a journal article written by Nguyen Hui Huang with the title One Decade Since the Asian Financial Crisis, What Did Asian Economies Learn from Their Past? There are arguments that can be taken, namely because for all the problem that the IMF caused in their demands, which resulted in mistrust in the West, the IMF did manage to motivate regional cooperation and create a new regional architecture. Unfortunately, the regional cooperation itself is also facing problems such as the competition between China and Japan and the interference of the West that disagree with status quo disturbance. In the end, the writers conclude that to create a perfect regional cooperation is impossible with too much interference from inside and outside regions, especially the IMF. The last literature, namely a journal article written by Corm Kearney and Elaine Hudson with the title The Asian Financial Crisis and the Role of the IMF, a survey. There are several arguments that can be taken, namely, despite all the issues and the political problems that it brought, the IMF did, in all its worth, help Asian in dealing with the financial crisis. That IMF give the Asian times to reprieve themselves. The unfortunate thing is this help came with a cost because the IMF does not want to give a free lunch. In return, the IMF requests unreasonable things till the point many times They overstep their boundaries by giving political pressure to the local government.
For the analysis, we will talk about causes of Asian financial crisis in 1997 until 1998. The Asian financial crisis began with the decline in the Thai baht in early June 1997. Crisis also caused a decline in economic growth in countries in the Asian region. It can be seen from the value of their GDP. Growth in Asia, especially ASEAN, in 1997 slowed. There are several factors that triggered the financial and economic crisis. First is because of the large debt in countries. In addition, amount of debt, the short payback period also greatly affects this. Second, due to globalization and the increasingly integrated nature of world financial markets, changing market perceptions have resulted in an aggressive reversal of capital flows. The third factor is the weak financial sector. The liberalization of the financial sector also has an impact on increasing the growth of the financial systems.
And what is the role of the IMF and ASEAN itself in order to contain the financial losses caused by the emergency? The affected countries are the presenting recovery measures in the later options for the parts of 1997 until mid-1998. The IMF provide $36 billion to help transfer programs in the three worst hit countries. The IMF provides the monetary assistance as a features of its worldwide aid package, followed by ASEAN, gives the impressions of serious happening in understanding between ASEAN expert and the entire population within and outside ASEAN of the effort to overcome the monetary crisis. However, the insights are about ASEAN that powerless and ASEAN that cannot move under its hierarchical weight and regulations.
How successful were the IMF and ASEAN in dealing with the 1997 until 1998 financial crisis? The IMF itself can be said to be successful, but at the same time felt in addition to providing loan funds, the IMF also provides programs that can be implemented by countries affected by the crisis to improve their economic system. The IMF, in carrying out programs and lending, provides several regulations where this can be burden the country concerned, which is one of the factors of the IMF failure. Despite the fact that the IMF still received criticism, we cannot ignore the fact that the programs and loan funds provided by the IMF are one of the factors that have a big role in helping countries. As for ASEAN itself, it can be said that ASEAN has failed in handling the case of this financial crisis. The countries in ASEAN, which were almost entirely developing countries, were still unable to resolve the economic crisis at that time. So they still need assistance from international organizations as well as from more developed countries. This is important to know so that we can know that there are still shortcomings in the ASEAN regional organization. In addition, by knowing this, we can indirectly find out what steps have been taken by ASEAN and the IMF in dealing with the issue of this financial crisis. What is the future of ASEAN? ASEAN as a regional organization can learn from the experience of this economic crisis. By improving the economic system and interregional cooperation from previous mistakes, ASEAN can have a promising future and can become one of the strongest regional organizations in the world with the strengthening of relations between countries.
There are two conclusions that can be drawn. First, the IMF has not been fully successful in dealing with the Asian financial problem. IMF as international economic institution has not been able to fully provide assistance and program to each country. Second, ASEAN have not been able to resolve the problem at that time because ASEAN's role was only provide assistance in the form of the cooperation of the members.